And I'm recording out.
Today's guest was Salvador Carbajal. He is an architect and the owner of a newly formed construction company. He came today to talk to us about ADUs, or what's called accessory dwelling units. These are like guest houses that you might build attached to your home, or sometimes detached or attached to your garage. And he talks to us today about how basically investors make money off building these in California today. So without further ado, let's hear from Salvador.
Okay, so guys, good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Salvador Carbajal. Yes, a little bit of my background. I own an architectural firm, and as Jason said this year, I'm combining the company to a design build, meaning that it's going to be a construction company as well involved on that. So that's just kind of what I do, technically architecture and construction. So regarding the presentation, I kind of split the presentation in 4 main points. One, I'm just going to give you a small introduction about myself. Then this specific presentation is more about the opportunities of building an ADU in your property. And I'm going to talk more about what is an ADU in a minute. So we're talking about that and the potential of how increase, the property value depending on the market and depending on the location of the property. So we're going to talk about that, and then because as Jason mentioned before, the market right now is too competitive to only just kind of try to flip a house right now. It needs a lot more work to actually make it more profitable. So we're going to talk a little bit, very standard codes, so you understand what is an ADU. I'm going to try to go fast on the codes because sometimes they tend to be a little bit boring. As the third perspective of this, it's going to be personal projects that I'm working right now. We're gonna see, the design of it. We're gonna see the location and the different scenarios, and also the evaluation on each property, so you can understand the numbers of each project. And then, at the very end, we're gonna open it up for a few questions in case that you have any questions. Okay. So let's start a little bit about me. Well. I was born actually in Palm Springs and raised in Mexico. That explains a little bit my accent because I moved here when I was 21 years old. I studied architecture and environmental design in Palm Springs. I graduated from there, and then I went to USC to study construction management. After I graduated from USC, I worked for a big company here in downtown Los Angeles, building a high-rise in downtown. Eventually started to get very busy doing my own little projects in architecture that I started to open what it is now SAC, and then which stands for Sustainability, Architecture, and Construction Management. And, after a few months, started to get so busy that I just decided to step out of the company and open my own little firm, architectural. And then this year, as I mentioned, it's a combination now of construction on my own projects. So let's talk a little bit about the standard codes on ADUs. So the short version of an ADU is very simple. So technically speaking, an ADU is that you can have a small house in the backyard of your house right now. So that's technically what it is, but the actual name of it is an accessory dwelling unit. So it's not considered a house, it's not considered a unit, it's an ADU. So it has its own evaluation on the market. Okay, so ADUs in single families, they're very simple. They can be attached to your property, they could be detached of your property. You can convert the garage and then convert it into an ADU. Obviously, to make it a legal ADU, it has to have all livable spaces, meaning it has to have kitchen, all kind of appliance, and then it will convert into a legal ADU. The maximum square footage for an ADU is 1,200 square feet. So that's about very comfortable 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, but we can push it sometimes, depends on the area, to 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. But, so it depends on the situation and the location of the area. Single family residence also qualifies for juniors ADUs, which means that the maximum square footage for a junior is 500 square feet, no more than that, and it has to be attached to that, okay? And this only applies to single families. A lot of people get confused between having a junior in multifamilies, in a few units, and they don't qualify for that. The multifamily, they have their own section code. So, well, before I go to that, I forgot about this. Let me just explain you a little bit about the rule about how does it work in a single family. So technically, so many things. I'm explaining the overall code. So if you're having an ADU in either in multifamily or in a single family, you don't need to have parking. That's one big point for us, because then automatically you can do a few ADUs in your properties, okay? But the main rule, it has to be detached. So now moving towards the single family codes. So again, the main rule over here, if you have a multifamily, is that they have to be detached from the main units, and it applies the same rule. You could have 1,200 square feet, the maximum size, as long as they detach. And the main rule here, the most important thing, is that you actually qualify automatically for 2 ADUs on your property. Okay, is one rule as well for bigger projects that counts that you can convert up to 25% of the counts of units on your property as an ADU. So to make it to make it like an example, this is an example that I got directly from the city. So if you own 200 apartments property with 200 parking spaces, potentially you could take 100 parking spaces out of the 300 and convert those spaces to 50 ADUs, which is 25%, which is quite a lot of the units. So now you can have an extra 50 units in your property. So this is just like a diagram, very, very simple, but just to give you an idea. Let's just imagine this is a building with 200 units over here, and this is a bunch of parking for the units, right? So the way to do it, then with a new rule that applies in 2020, then you take a space on the parking to actually convert extra 50 units on these properties. So that's for big projects, but it's a big plus for big developers as well. Now, as a third phase on this one, let's go to some of the projects that we're working on it right now. Jason is actually involved on this project over here. It's actually from him. So this one is it's in a nice area. It's getting close to Culver City. So the potential here is a little bit different. It's a small ADU. It's only 420 square feet, and it's above an existing garage. Okay, so because it's the area, it's getting a little bit nicer. We're trying to design something that it combines with the area. So from the moment that they hire me, it takes about 2 to 3 months to get plans approved. That's how it's supposed to be. Right now with COVID, it takes a lot longer because all the cities are behind and they're just trying to catch up. But let's look into the numbers. So it takes about 2 to 3 months to get this project in average approved. Okay. The estimate time for construction for something like this is it's about 3 to 4 months. The estimate cost on plans, architectural and structural, and Title 24, everything, is about 9K. Okay. This specific area for a 1-bedroom unit, it rents about 1,800, 1.8K approximately. The construction, again, because it's kind of small, it could be between 70K to 80K. But based on that, your estimated property value increase. After investing 80K on this, then the value goes up to 250 on your property value, which is it's a good return on the investment on this one. So again, in front here, I don't have it, but in front of here is a multifamily unit. It's hard to increase units because it's already maxed out. So with the new rule of ADUs, the best way to increase a unit is actually building a new ADU. In the case of Jason, he tried to do something a little bit better, and he's like, okay, I want to keep the garage and then build an ADU above that, which is a little bit more complicated, but at the same time, you're still keeping the garage for the tenants, which I think is a big plus, especially in Los Angeles. So this is one project. This is another one as well. the location of this one, it's not as nice as the previous one, but it still has the potential to do ADUs. And we did the same concept where we have an ADU above the garage. So on this one, the city of Los Angeles as well, same square footage, about 420. Approval on plans 2-3, the same situation, and construction terms, it's about 3-4 months. Estimated cost of plans on this one, yes, because of it's a little bit simple. It's not as modern as the other one. It's about 7,000 to 8,000 approximately. The rent on this one is about 1,400, and the estimated construction cost on this one, it's about 70K. Okay, but then with the investment of 70K, your property value goes up to 150 on the investment on this one. Well, you know, I know it's not related, but guys, but I think it's important to mention, since I'm an architect, it's, you know, if someday you decide to actually do something like this, it's important to hire somebody who does the new kind of concept open space. It's a small, but even that it's a small, you still have a nice open space in your layout. So I think it's important to keep that. I think as a humans, when you have an open space, I think it's a lot more comfortable. Even if you're not in the best area, you still feel comfortable in your unit. Anyway, so let's move to the other one. This is another ADU. It looks more like a single family residence, but it's actually 2 stories ADU. The main code in California state says that if you have a single family residence, you qualify to have 2 stories ADU. A lot of cities are okay with that. As long as they follow the California state, you can have a 2nd stories ADUs. Some other cities, they don't like the idea of having 2 stories ADUs, so sometimes they apply their own rules towards this. As long as they're working under the California state, the 2 stories ADU should qualify for that. Okay. So on this one, it was the estimated time for plans is about 2 to 4 months. Time in construction on this one is about 3 to 6 months. Estimated cost on plans is a little bit higher. It's 13K with a structural and Title 24. Estimated rent to market value is about 2,500 to 2,800. This is located in the city of Diamond Bar. The estimated construction cost for something like this, it's about 170 to 220. But then because of the same location you know, the increase in value is 600K. So the return you investment on this one is very good. Okay. A little bit about the layout. Again, it's open concept. The reason it looks very big is because we have a huge opening in the middle that connects between the 1st floor and the 2nd floor. So it creates extra space on the unit. This one is in Long Beach. It's a 2 bedrooms, 2 restrooms, 2 baths. It's a very small property. It's a 655 ADU. On this one, the owner, you know, he really wanted to push it to the maximum amount of bedrooms, even if it was a small space. We were able to work it out, even if it is small. So estimated plans is about 2-3 months. The construction is about 5 months. Estimated cost for plans 9K, including a structural. Then the rent on market, the market value over here is about 2K to 2.2. And construction costs, we estimate to be between 80 to 90K. We actually bid on my construction company. We actually bid this last week, and it ended up being on 85K, the actual construction cost. Wow. Now, the estimated property value increase on this one is about 250K in investment. This one, I don't know where it comes from. It's not related to this project. So sorry guys for that. Okay. Now let's move to the other one. This one, I owe you a render on this one, but this is actually Jason's property as well. It's actually a very nice one. It's located in Hollywood, nearby Hollywood. So we tried to maximize the views from this. So we created a whole roof deck on the ADU. Again, it's an ADU above the garage on this one. So, but since it's on Hollywood, having a roof deck, I think is very important, right? So estimated time for plans is 2-3 months. Again, this one was a little bit longer. I believe we started to work back on October, and I'm still working on with the city just because of COVID delay a lot of things. Estimated time for construction, this one should stay the same, about 3 to 6 months. I'm gonna guess the real number is gonna be 4 months. Estimated cost for plants, about 10K, including structural and little things. Estimated rent to market value is about 2.5 to 2.8 on rent on this area. It's a 2-bedroom as well and 2-bath. Estimated construction cost is about 100 to 120 approximately. And the estimated property value increase on this after your investment, it's about 200K. Okay. And the square footage is 687, so it's a small unit. But again, we were able to fit 2 bedrooms, even a laundry room on this one over here. Okay, this one is actually an interesting one. I hope you are rendered on this one as well. So this one is located in Montebello. The estimated times on this one is about 2 to 5 months. And I'll explain you more about the project. This one is tricky. So this one goes actually around the codes because it's ways to go around the codes according to BLNEU. Estimated time for construction, it's about 6 months on this one. The estimated cost on plants is 14K, just because it's a new 2-story. Estimated rent, market value, it could be about 2,400 per unit. Estimated construction cost, it's about 200K. And the estimated property value increase on this one, it's 700 to 800, and explain in a minute why so much. Each unit is about 950 square feet. So the important over here is that it's a 2 stories, but the property right now is only 1 single family, but it's zone R2. So I think those are the best properties, R2s with an existing single family, because that means that you can build extra units in the back and automatically qualifies to have 2 ADUs, as long as you have the land. In this scenario, they didn't have the land to have 2 ADUs. So what we did is create on the first floor, according to legalize the unit, on the first floor, it's a huge tandem garage and a big storage. We don't need it, but legally we don't need it, but we want to convert this into an ADU. The problem is that the rule says that the ADUs needs to be detached from every unit. So here we don't have the space to do that. So what we did, we create a whole new unit because it qualifies for 2 units. We create the unit above right here, and the bottom is all empty space. So whenever we get this approved for the first unit, everything gets approved, we're gonna build this structure over here. And then after all this gets approved, then we're gonna submit plans to convert the bottom area over here as an ADU. Because the other rule says that if you have an empty space in a multifamily, then you can convert the existing space into an ADU. So we try to convert this into existing space according to convert ADUs. Now, the total amount of units on this one, so remember, right now as a single family, after all these, it's gonna have 2 units and 2 ADUs. That's why the increase on the property jumps so much, because from a single family, it jumps 3 or 4 units. Okay, so I guess this one is probably the last project that I have for you guys. The other ones, I guess at least you get an idea on how, if you're really into real estate investment, then having an ADU is a huge opportunity on these days. Okay, it's important to know as well that the California state, they did specify that by 2025 they're gonna change the rules a little bit on the ADU. So I'm thinking they're gonna be more strict. Like for example, going around the code like this one. I don't think in 2025 they're gonna let us do it so easy like now. Okay. Yes, so you know. So the last portion of it is it's open to questions. This one, I just did it. I couldn't find the logo right away, so I put my Instagram is this. Okay, guys. So if you have any question, yes, you're more than welcome to ask whatever you want.
Hello.
Greg, do we have any questions?
So I'm waiting for them to come in, but I got some questions for you. I just want to make sure I've got this right. So, for example, the Diamond Bar property.
Okay.
You were saying it cost something like 150 for the homeowner, right? For construction, and then the value goes up $600,000.
It's a 3 bedrooms and 3 baths. Yes.
So someone could spend 150. The property value goes up 600,000, and then you could
More
immediately.
170 to 220. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
maybe 220, but it's like tripling almost your money, right?
In this area, yes, in Diamond Bar. So, I mean, when you run the comps, after doing the pro forma and doing a little bit of homework, that's probably about market value on the area.
So if you did this, you could put in, okay, let's say 220. The value goes up 600,000. You could immediately then turn around and get a second mortgage on that equity, right? And then you just made hundreds of thousands of dollars, which won't be taxed because it's debt. It's not even income, correct?
Right, I think that's the idea, yes.
So this is a really good way to print money, is what you're saying.
This one specifically is one of the few ADUs that actually we include a garage on it.
I think the owner, the original idea was to build the ADU. She was going to move into it and then refinance and then rent out the front single family house to cover the mortgage. So therefore she gets a lump sum of money and she doesn't have to pay for the debt. That's kind of like the idea what she wanted to do, right?
True. Yes.
Because I remember for Professor Wu, when he came, I think some people were asking the suggestion, what should they do if they want to get into it? And he recommended buying a duplex. But obviously it's very expensive now. So it seemed like you could buy like a single family house and maybe build something like this as a second option, basically, right?
Yeah, that's a good option.
But the only problem is time, because it seems like if I look at the estimated time for plans, approval, construction, by the time you get the CFO to move in there, we're looking at 9 months to a year. Something
it's
like
about
that.
nice. Yeah, it could be a whole year project between plans and construction.
Okay.
So here's a question. How does the fast changes that occur in this construction market and real estate market affect your estimates and your timing? So like right now, things are getting a lot more expensive for the projects that we started, last year. The costs have changed so much. So how do you factor that in to your pricing and your estimates?
Well, it's so in terms of planning, like architectural plans, engineering plans, all that, that really doesn't change that much. It's just based on the area where it's located. Okay. In terms of pricing construction one, the hard cost by itself, it did increase a lot from last year to this year. So it's an increase on that. But I think these numbers over here, I think it's accurate based on the construction cost. Did I answer your question?
So I guess the question is, does it affect where you decide to invest or your pricing, or is the profit just so big that you have such a cushion it doesn't matter too much?
No, I think it's very important to do research on each property that you're planning to invest. One, because sometimes it's just so many scenarios that not all properties on the market could qualify to have a profitable ADU. Maybe to make it a potential profitable, where you can have a nice investment, a good return on your investment. Maybe it's to have a 2 bedrooms ADU and 2 baths, and then you only have space to only a studio ADU, for example. So it's really doing research on how much could you actually convert in the property that you're looking to invest.
Mm-hmm. So what does this market look like for you if we have another recession or if the housing market goes into a slump?
Yeah, that's a good question. For sure, we're gonna slow down a little bit, but I had the feeling that people who have the capital to invest, I think it's a perfect moment to invest because ADUs is still going to be available, and whenever the market value starts to pick up again, then you have everything ready in terms of construction and everything.
Okay. So the next question we have, actually, I had this question as well. She asked, what kind of financing options are there for this type of construction? Does someone usually pay all in cash, or can you finance the original investment in construction?
No, it's actually very few people pay everything in cash in front. Very few, actually. At least my clients, they don't pay that much, maybe 20% in front, but it's a few options. One of them is the hard money loan, which has a huge interest on it. The other one is a few companies out there that maybe I can share links if you want to. I will send you the links and then you can share it to your students. There's a few companies there that actually give you loans for construction. They do ask, a few things here and there. Sometimes they ask you even for plans, but they have financial options. So not that many put the money in front to build everything.
Maybe I should do that. Why am I paying cash? Maybe I should do this. This is the first I've heard of this kind of loan. What's going on here?
So there's just to add on that, there's some loans out there you could get. It's like, for example, right now I'm doing a build up in 38th, and then what happened is the interest rate is roughly about 7%, 7 to 8%. But it's a short-term construction loan, which is you usually take it out for about 9 months to a year. And then if you think about, that seems like a lot, but if you think about it, let's say you estimate construction costs at $200,000. So what's your cost of money at 7%? Probably about $14,000, $15,000 for the whole year. And once you're done, let's say the value goes up by 600,000, you refinance right away, and you go down to like 2.5%, 3%, 3.25%, and then that's actually how you get those type of projects done. So it just, so instead of construction costs of 220, you say, okay, I'm going to pay 250, including financing costs, and then because the profit margin is so large, you're still going to be able to make it out positively and favorably for yourself.
So when you say you refinance immediately, what you're saying is after you get the loan to pay for the construction, then your property value goes up. You take like a second mortgage or a loan on that equity, immediately pay back the construction loan, and you have the excess cash in hand. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, let's say you borrow money from Bank of America, and then at the end of it, you owe 200,000 because the property value went up 600,000. You immediately do another appraisal, get a higher value, and then let's say Chase. Well, then you need the money to pay that off, and you keep the difference basically.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, Salvador. Next question.
Yes.
You talked about you were an employee first, and then you started your own business. Can you talk about a little bit about the cost and benefits of being an entrepreneur versus an employee?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more pressure for sure. It's late nights almost every week when you're starting, 3, 4 in the morning sometimes. Because the truth is, like, during the day you have meetings. That the actual work, it happens in the evening, right after all the meetings are gone. So the benefit, I guess, is time. You have a little more time, but that you control, right? The transaction, it didn't just happen in one night. It's a whole process. It's a whole process. For example, even when I was at school, I took so many internships with different companies from developers, doing performance, even free internships at the beginning as well, just to learn. Eventually graduate, and then I was trying to find projects at the beginning, small little ones. If at the beginning, not charging a lot, it's okay because you want the experience, right? So, like my first ever project, it was a full remodel in Silver Lake, and I think I charged like $1,500 for the whole thing. I just wanted to get the project, so it was my first project ever. But after that, I understood the city, I understood little things. And I still was at school, and I still was having internships. And back in the day, I was working as a server because it's the best way to, in my opinion, good way to make a little income while you're at school. So I was doing all this. It's full occupied. Whenever I graduated, I still didn't start my thing. I went to work for a company first. There's more knowledge there, and then because I started whatever I did before that, little by little, it's starting to come a few projects. To the point where, last year, a year and a half, started to get so many projects where it was, okay, what is more convenient? Do I continue with a big company, or do I decide to maybe open or continue with my projects? So I, obviously, as you can see, I went to the other path where I continue, pushing the architecture through into that. And then now, since I have a few projects, it's just convenient to start construction as well on that one.
So it sounds like you use the employment almost like an investment, like going to school again, right? You're learning how the business works.
Yeah, of course. It's just it's. I think to start something yourself, you have to have a nice experience, right? And then it's pretty easy to start something.
So then is that in-between stage kind of rough when you're working as an employee and starting on the side working for yourself? Is that really overwhelming? It sounds like a lot.
Yeah, so I can explain you, for example, when you work in any construction company, you wake up about 4:30 in the morning. First meeting is always at 6 in the morning, and then you have a meeting at 7, another meeting at 8, and then you get out from work, working for these kind of companies. You get out of work about 4 or 5 p.m. So typically it's from 6 to 4 or 5. After that, I went home, take a nap for 1 hour, and then go to my office, work from 6 to 12 or 1 approximately, come back home and sleep 3-4 hours, wake up at 4:30 and do the same routine from Monday to Friday. So by Friday at the company, I think I was like a zombie mode, just like barely just standing, Salvador, can you do that? Or even sending emails on the computer, on Fridays. I remember just sending emails and just kind of falling asleep in front of the computer. So yeah, I mean, it's a little struggle, but I think at the end of the end, when you like it, you're worth it.
Oh, so another question from a student. They're asking, is there scenarios where plans do not get approved? Can you start construction while you're waiting for plans to get approved in order to speed up the process, or do you have to wait until the plans gets approved?
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually. So to answer the first question, if plans cannot get approved, that's probably the first phase of everything. So let's say that you hire an architect. The first phase is for the architect to do research, right, on whatever you're planning to do. Even if it is an ADU, a single family, multifamily, whatever it is. The homework, the first phase, and that takes about a week, to be honest, not too long, because it's just contacting the city. Maximum 2 weeks, but maximum. So the first phase, few people do it for free, consulting. So because they don't charge a lot, they should charge no more than 2K for something like this. And that first phase is to investigate and see if it is actually real to do what you want to do on the lot. After that, there's no reason why plans couldn't get approved, because you figured out everything that is doable. So that's number one. Technically speaking, the architect should do homework before starting the whole set of plans. The other question, in terms of starting construction, in some cities, they allow you to start demo. You have to pull a permit before that. But then the process of the whole project, it needs to be already in a good advanced stage to do demo first. And that's the only thing that you can do in terms of construction. Is if you want to make it legal, of course, then that's the way to go.
So you could demo first. That's the only thing, basically.
Yeah, demo first. Yes, you still have to pull a permit, but it calls express permit. And some cities don't allow you, but for example, LA is okay as long as your process is almost to the final stage.
All right, next question that I think I missed. Sorry about that. What would you say is the main barrier to entry for investors that want to do this kind of real estate development?
I didn't hear you very well. What did you say?
What do you think is the main entry barrier for investors that want to start this kind of investment?
Entry barrier. I would say probably finding a good property, because I think it's very tough right now. Whenever there's something on the market, it goes in terms of days sometimes. So I mean, in terms of barriers, I mean, it's also the capital to invest. But it's just, finding the property, and after that, I think everything goes kind of smooth. If you have the property, if you're lucky enough to find a good property and then have capital to start it, in terms, not the whole capital, but maybe just for the plant sections. And then remember, you have a period of about 3 to 6 months to actually find out the whole capital. And those 2 to 6 months are actually, when plants are getting work with the city. So the main capital at the beginning is probably, yes, the investment for the architect and the structural engineer. And after that, everything should go smooth.
Yeah, because the profit margins are so huge. Like Jason was saying, you could get a loan, or like you were saying, you could get a loan from a construction company. You don't even have to put any money in if you have the property already, right?
Yeah, the only person, the only people that is going to ask you for money in front is going to be the architect and the structural engineer and the city. But the city fees, like for plan checks, are very little. Like whenever you submit a city to Los Angeles, it's always less than 2,000 for plan check fees. And after that, it's more fees from the city, but very little, like $300 here, $400 there, 100 here, whatever. So so you don't have to have the whole capital at the beginning. I actually have one client that he hired me to do a project, and he didn't have the capital at the beginning. He just had the capital for the floor plans, for everything. It's like, how many months do I have, Salvador, to figure out? It's like probably about 5 months. And then in between those 5 months, he actually got the construction loan for the project. But he got the property. I think it was a good property. He got it in Long Beach, so he wanted to jump right on it instead of waiting and miss the property opportunity.
Yeah, I would say another barrier is just not knowing this is even possible. I've been following Jason around with his real estate investments for, geez, maybe 8 years now, and it wasn't until August that I even heard of this sort of investment.
Yeah, I mean, it's very new in 2020. Yes, into January 2020, California updated the ADUs laws. So they existed before, but it was so complicated to do ADUs. So it's still new. Technically speaking, it's still new.
Okay, so what changed and why did they change it?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
Well, the California, they say it's a shortage of affordable housing. So they try to push. This is all over California. So whatever I told you about ADUs is everywhere in California. San Francisco is huge, San Diego is huge, LA is really big on doing ADUs, and supposedly because it's a shortage of affordable housing. So obviously, when you have a single family residence of 3 bedrooms and 1,800 square feet, now you're limited to have a maximum of 1,200 square feet, which means based on market value, you cannot charge the same as the single family residence. So I guess that's supposedly the main point of California.
So there must be a reason why they weren't allowing it before. They were making it difficult before. So let's be realistic. What are the negative things with this sorts of building that are going to come after we all do this? Because everyone's doing this everywhere, right?
Everyone is doing everywhere. Well, the negative things, at least in Los Angeles, I would say it's going to be a huge parking issues but I don't know if that's what you want, but a big negative thing that I see in Los Angeles, because now you can convert the garage into an ADU, and it's the most affordable version of an ADU. So everyone is a lot of people is converting garages. So if it is hard right now to find property to park in, then in 5 years from now, I think it's going to be difficult. That's a negative. In terms of, what do you mean about negative? Are you, because I'm trying to see exactly if you're thinking on negative in terms of what?
Like for society, there's a reason the government was saying, no, we don't want this to be a thing you can do, right?
Before?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, I just know that before single family residence, they're supposed to be a single family residence, and you couldn't have, or it was very difficult to have a casita in the back. As a multifamily residence before, you just do units, and you were only able to do units. And if you maxed out on the units, that was it. So in terms of why they changed the code, I'm not 100% sure.
Well, I just see then one negative is, population density is going to go up, right? Because before now it's parking cars. Now you're putting 2 people or a family of 3 in there. So, at a certain point, you're going to have a lot more people in a smaller space. And then you're going to basically run into issues. So space and parking is going to come at a premium, basically, I think after 2020. But that's the largest negative I see.
I think they want that. I think the city and the state sees that as a positive. They want it to be more dense, less spread out, less traffic. But I think it's going to be really interesting because this is very different than the East Coast cities. And so if you're trying to force people here to become more like East Coast residents, when we're so used to driving everywhere and it is spread out, I'm just not sure how good that's going to work.
But here's another economic incentive why the state wants this, because when you add an ADU, you improve the property value, so your property tax is going to go up.
Yeah, property tax goes up on the property.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
for them, they're like, hey, why not, right? They're going to spend $50K and it's going to be worth $200,000. I'm going to charge them 1.25% forever. So
Yeah, that's true.
taxes goes up.
That's a good point. Okay, here's a question that's a little off topic, but I actually like this one a lot. What do you think? What's your opinion on 3D printed homes?
Oh, that's a good question.
I like that actually. Actually, I was reading an article. I don't know if you remember, but I was born in Palm Springs, and actually, I spent a lot of time over there when I moved to the US. When I moved back to the US, and the first community 3D printing is happening nearby. It's in Coachella Valley. It's in the. You can Google it. It's a 3D printing community in Rancho Mirage. It's I believe they're doing 13 or 14 homes in Rancho Mirage right now, and I think in terms of pollution, I think it's a lot more sustainable than a regular construction home. Because I think I'm not an expert on that, but I think when they're doing it, the Coachella Valley is a desert. I think they somehow designed where the insulation is already incorporated into it, where you don't have to use the regular kind of insulation. Again, I'm not an expert on it, but I'm if I had the opportunity to work in a 3D house somehow, I will do it. I think it's kind of the future.
So you don't think there's any downsides? You don't think it's cheaper? You think it's totally doable?
Yeah, I think it's totally doable. I mean, cheaper at this point, I don't know, because I think they use huge machines, and so I don't know how that works. I know maybe in the future, like in 10 years from now, it could be affordable to do that. I'm guessing that we just upload our drawings into the system, and then the 3D start doing it. So I don't know the cost, to be honest with that.
Well, here's so many of these questions that are coming up. I had the same question. These are good. So you were showing a lot of ADUs in different neighborhoods that had different designs. One was very, very simple because you said it was in a cheaper area, and one was much nicer. I think it was in Beverly Hills or something. When you make those decisions, what guides that? Why is it? Do you try to match the local neighborhoods, or what is behind that decision?
For example, a regular pitch roof, traditional pitch roof, regular rafters, ceiling joists, it's a standard construction, meaning sometimes in terms of structural, you're spending less money. The design by itself, the outside, then it's a little bit more affordable to build something regular. And then the other thing is, for example, if the whole community around the area it's pitch, and traditional, then building something super modern inside that community, I think is off, in my opinion. Then I try to match the architecture on it, and then the market value, the same. So, for example, the one that was close to Culver City, actually, has a modern looking. Construction-wise, it's going to cost a little bit more because it doesn't have a traditional pitch roof, but even the cost is not a lot. It's just to match the neighborhood more than anything. I think it's important to match it. But the most important of it, even if to match the neighborhood, the floor plan is still very open concept. I think that's the main goal.
Okay, so it is mostly aesthetics to match the other buildings.
Yeah, and some cities like LA is cool. Long Beach is cool. A lot of cities are cool, but a lot of cities as well. They want you, like Orange County is big on this. They want you to match the existing property. So if the existing property is from the 80s and has pitch roof and has pink stucco, very 80s kind of house, then the new ADU in a few cities, they want you to match that. Then the back house maybe has to have the same color, the same pitch roof. It's new construction, but they want you to match the existing house. So sometimes it's a code regulation.
Would you still do that even if it wasn't an ADU? If you're building a brand new property, would you still match the aesthetic of the neighborhood?
Depends on the neighborhood. It really depends on the neighborhood. and the budget. Okay, if it is by code, then you're forced to match the neighborhood. A lot of cities have their own design regulations. But if it is LA, I go by the neighborhood. If it is new construction, and if you live, I don't know, in Canton, and it's right new place, then I think having a super modern structure in that area around different, I think you're driving and it looks off, in my opinion. So I will try to match the architecture on it. Make it modern. It used to have a classic design on it, but it's gonna be a modern classic design to match the neighborhood.
That's interesting. So it kind of, I wonder if that kind of slows down progression in certain neighborhoods. Like if a certain neighborhood starts really simple and poor housing, it's going to take a lot longer for that to become more gentrified, or maybe because these slow changes that you have to match what's already there. I wonder about that.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Good question. I guess I'm not the only one. I think it's like maybe design process where you try not to go super crazy on the design when it's nothing modern in more than a mile ratio. So it's doable, probably yes. But then I don't know. It depends on the property. Like if you're more towards LA. I guess it's so many, you have so many modern options in terms of in 1 mile ratio, that having something modern, having something classical, then it match still the neighborhood.
Right. Oh, here's a good question. Do you only do these kind of projects where you're adding to properties, or do you ever buy a property, demo everything, and then put a bunch of ADUs on there?
But some clients, I have the opportunity where they do get properties in a bad conditions, and they decide, okay, they buy the property in a bad condition because probably it's in a good price, and then the goal is to redo everything and take advantage of the ADUs.
Oh, here's another architectural or aesthetic question. Have you ever gotten any negative feedback from neighbors, like because you put an ADU up for one of their neighbors? Did they ever get upset about it?
Yeah, it happens. It happened to me in Beverly Hills. That was tricky because Beverly Hills has a design review where before you can submit plans to the city, it has to pass the design review. And according to how the design review, you had to send letters to all your neighbors. It's kind of the way it works. Otherwise, you don't qualify for design review. And then in my mind, it was like, who's gonna go for the design review? It's like so boring. You're just gonna go there. Like you had to drive all the way to the city hall. But for my surprise, it was a bunch of neighbors over there on the meeting and complain about like, we don't want extra. Like, what are you gonna do to it? You're gonna rent it, or it's for yourself? Like, I don't want Airbnbs on this area. Blah blah blah. So they make us have different. Design concepts like, oh, build a huge tree over here so I don't see you, or build this wood fence over here so I don't see the AC. So yeah, it happens.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've been informing my neighbors about what we're going to do because Salvador is building one of these in my backyard. And for every neighbor I've told, their face looks like I just told them a family member died. They look terrified when I say, yeah, I'm building a guest house. And then that's the next question. Are you going to rent it? And you can tell they're hoping the answer is no. But so have you ever lost projects because the neighborhood was complaining?
No last projects because of the neighborhoods haven't happened yet. They just make it more difficult sometimes, like more work, on the plans, on the design and things like that.
Okay, well. Oh, that's a good one. How do you work with HOAs? Does that get in the way?
I was just showing Jason, I'm doing a new project in Bel Air, and that project is HOA. So how they work is, if depends on the city, but for example, Bel Air is part of the city of Los Angeles. So before submitting plans to the actual city, you first submit plans to the HOA, and they act like their own city. You pay fees to the HOA. they're gonna get red marks and comments from the HOA. Whenever they approve it, and they have their own design review and everything. Whenever they approve it, then you qualify to submit plans to the actual city to get the final permits. So it takes extra time. It's like double submittal almost.
But if the HOA approves it, is it pretty much good to go for the city because they know the regulations?
Usually after the HOAs, it means that they check the structurally, they check a lot of things. So the city take it easy after submitting.
Okay. Well, that's the end of the questions. Nope. And as soon as I said that, I got one more. Okay. What is your least favorite thing about your job?
Well, I have two plays here, so I don't know.
We can be honest. Come on, tell us.
Well, okay, you guys are very cool, but
he was going to say Jason. Jason and Craig are the worst part of my job.
No, actually, you guys are very cool, and it's not because you're here. You're actually cool. But I have clients where it's probably the first time doing it and explain the process. You know, even in the proposal, when everything starts, I say it's going to take about this many months for that, and this many months for this, and this many months for that. And when it's with the city, it's with the city. Once that is on the city, it's kind of out of my hands, right? It's on the city. I can only call and send emails, but other than that, that's how much I can push it. So it's clients there that they're texting you every day, give me updates. What is my updates? What's happening? Like, hey, it's with the city. Like if I have my plans myself, then it's a problem. But if it is with the city, it means that it's moving, but it's slowly moving. So that's a little bit irritating, but it's part of it. So you kind of get used to it eventually.
I can see that.
Team again. Okay, cool. What's up? So, but other than that, it's fun. Again, I think something to know is it's very important. I think everyone for students, because I wasn't that long ago when I was at school, but it's important to know that whatever you do, just try to combine something that it could create you a nice life in the future, and at the same time, something that you really enjoy to do. And the way I see it is like, there's so many competition right now because so many people, right? So many students, it's competition for everything right now. So, but when you do something that you love, you're already cutting half of the competition because, for example, in terms of architecture, if somebody jump into an architecture just because they think it's good money, but then I'm doing it because I love it, then automatically I'm doing a better job than him because I can stay until 3-4 in the morning because I'm enjoying it. So my advice for you is just try to combine something that you really enjoy to do, and then when you find that, it's kind of like a blessing because then you enjoy your life. It goes easy.
And it becomes easier to deal with people complaining about city situations that you can't control, right?
Right. Yes. Yes.
I can see that. All right, so that I'm waiting to see. Yes, that is the last question, but I will ask this last one. So for students of economics who are in this room, what do you think the easiest path is for them to get involved in this line of work? Because they're not architects, obviously.
Right, of course. So in terms of investments, it's doing research, and I don't think it's that hard to do research. For example, you find a property, right? Getting information from architects, usually like in terms of can I do an ADU here, how many, that's usually free information. You don't have to hire them, it's consulting. So you find a property, you want to really jump into it. If you find a property, you think you have the capital, you think it's a good price, and then you think it's a good opportunity, then the next step is like, oh, I don't know the codes, right? I don't know how many can I do here. So I call an architect or somebody related to that. And then he's like, hey, this is the property I want to approach. It's already there. I want to do it fast. Tell me if I can do 2 ADUs. Tell me if I can do an extra unit. And that is usually free consultation. And usually takes about 24 hours to figure out. And after that, if everything goes well, then you try to put the money together and the investment together to develop. That's one part of it. The other one, it's in my opinion, in terms of the construction, it's to hire somebody experienced enough to do the construction, because if not, then it could delay the project by months, right?
So
Yeah.
how do you think they should get into this and learn about it if they're not at the place where they can be an investor, right? Is there a job for econ graduates where they could learn more about this market? The answer might be no, and that's okay.
I'm thinking. Look, like when I was at school, I actually took an internship with a private developer who taught me all about performance and how to raise money and things like that. So, yeah, there are a few companies out there who dedicates only to develop, and I guess when you start working for this, you understand how to invest.
Okay, so developers is who they should be looking for. That sounds good.
Developers companies, because they work, like architects, project managers, construction managers, and contractors. They don't see the developer part. Everything is already scheduled and programmed already. So everything's already fine. You see everything before you hire the architect and the contractors and everyone else. So, but this package, only the developer has access to it, or the developer company has access to it. So when you start working for them, I guess it's when you start to learning really how the investment works in terms of real estate.
I kind of want to intern for a developer now. This is very interesting. Okay, well, that's all I got. Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. So thank you, Salvador, for giving us an hour of your life to show us this stuff. Yeah, this is something pretty new, and then I'm sure we all learned something today. But yeah.
Any question, just let me know. I mean, you have a website or my Instagram. Just send me a message, and I'm more than happy to answer any question you may have. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Bye, guys.
So thank you. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Salvador.